Cat and Moose podcast. I'm Cat.
And I'm Moose. This is a true life podcast where we explore the quirks of being human. Hey, Cat.
Hey, Moose.
How's your week been?
My week has been awesome, mostly because I have gotten to be in person with you. I have missed you so much. Welcome home.
Thanks. It's been a couple weeks, and I'm still figuring out what home looks like. You know what I mean? I keep looking around my house oh, it's so nice to have a house because I was camping for 2 weeks, you know?
Almost like you kind of getting rid of your sea legs a little bit.
Exactly. I keep saying, it's so nice to have to pee and not plan on it.
Yeah.
You know, because when you have to pee out there, you have to be okay, I don't have much time. How fast can I get to the bathrooms? Or, just go wherever you are. Well, not wherever you are, but behind a tree or something.
And recently we talked about how, although the Sheenus is a lovely apparatus, it's hard to handle placement in the wilderness, especially when we don't know exactly from which part the liquid is coming and all of that. So,
we do know from which part the liquid is coming.
But we really don't, because remember we said it came from a certain part, but sometimes it travels forward and comes out another part. You remember that?
Yeah, but technically we know where it's coming from. It just travels.
I know, but directionally, sometimes it comes out a few degrees different than where it starts, right? That's what we've discussed.
Yeah. It's sort of I'm trying to think of a good analogy. It would be if you had one of those pumps in your backyard or your garden, and you had a piece of wire, and the water would travel on the wire. It travels on our area to get... Okay, that's too much.
I am totally not tracking with you at
I'm not
all.
either, to be honest. I'm not either.
Amazing. Well, so we're talking about peeing in the wilderness. You and Sarah have just been on a 2-week cross-country camping adventure, which is totally awesome. And we went to a podcast convention as well this week. That's how I got to spend some time with you guys. And here in Nashville, the podcast movement convention was here in town at Opryland, Gaylord Convention Hotel, whatever you want to call it. And one of the things we were talking about together yesterday was extreme activities, extreme adrenaline junkie type things that we've done together. And would you define using the Sheenus as one of those?
Oh, gosh. I have not used a Sheenus. The only thing I have used is one of those cardboard ones. But no, that was not extreme adventure. That was fear and afraid I was going to pee on myself. But yeah, I guess so. Not everyone would be willing to do that.
Yeah.
I would definitely say the trauma couch is on our list of extreme adventures.
Yeah, most definitely. And we're going to start a new series where in the middle of the week, we drop some segments from past episodes, and the trauma couch is definitely going to have to be involved in that.
It's at the top of the list.
Yeah.
I would say, though, that when you came with me to Atlanta to go skydiving and then decided you were also going to go, that qualifies as awesome adventure-seeking activities.
Well, it was really awesome because you were there, if I remember correctly, you were there in support of the nonprofit organization RAIN.
Yeah.
Well, tell a little bit about that for our listeners who don't know.
Well, there was this organization that I got involved in when I lived in Florida a lifetime ago, where they would gather sexual assault survivors on this specific date. The organization was called Speaking Out About Rape, and it was run by a woman named Kelly Green, who is an inspiring person. And she put together this national thing that you would jump out of a plane on this specific day, and it was sort of like taking your life back from what happened to you. And I just thought that was what an incredible way to, to honor what you've been through in your life when you've walked through something like that. So I did it a couple times while I was living in Florida with them. And then RAIN was sort of the organization, as big as they are, that helped get the word out about what they were doing. So yeah, the time that you and I went, I had raised some money for RAIN and jumped out of an airplane.
I mean, which I thought that was so awesome. And that's part of why I went with you. 1, to support you. 2, to support Rain and the mission. And I loved all the symbolism and metaphors and all the right words that smarter people than me would use here. I think the thing that, that I enjoyed so much about that trip is I was compelled to go with you.
Why?
I had to go, not on the trip. I had to go skydiving with you.
Oh, yeah. And it was so funny because your process was that you needed to check in with your mom. And I thought that was adorable. Something I would never think to do.
I checked in with my mom just to be sure, like, hey, are you okay if I throw myself out of an airplane today and maybe come back dead? Are you cool with that? And then I also checked in with my longest running client. I also checked in with him, same one who asked me to lunch today. And he was like, Kat, I love you. And I can't imagine my career without you. And I hope you enjoy yourself. So everybody gave me the blessing, and we have the cutest pictures from when we did that. We're going to need to share those on Insta.
I was going to ask you if you know where they are, because I love those pictures and I have no clue where they are.
Are you ready for it?
Yeah.
They're on MySpace.
Wait, MySpace?
Mm-hmm.
Can we find our stuff on MySpace?
I'm telling you, I did like a 17-page blog about that trip, and it is still on MySpace.
Okay, first of all, I need that. Put that on your list of things you must do because I need that. Secondly, can we talk about MySpace days?
I mean, yes.
I was. Oh my god. I hope I need my friend Kenny to listen to this episode. So he and I have this running joke to this day that back then, apparently we were both super emo. Like we didn't look emo. But we just were like walking through emotional times in our lives, I guess.
Unlike now, I guess, right?
Right. Well, at least I have more self-awareness because if MySpace still exists, I'm going to have to go find all the blogs I would write. Because remember, it would give you, that was like a big part of it.
Oh, yeah.
And then the other piece of it that was huge for me was you could change your song on your profile.
Oh, man. Gosh.
Why has Facebook not? I don't like Facebook. Why hasn't Instagram done that? But I would do that, assuming that all of the people that I was interested in or liked me or I wanted to be my friend, I assumed they would really read into it. Mm-hmm. So when they went to my page, they would hear that song and they would be like, oh, I see what she's going through.
Yeah.
But I remember writing some blogs on there that I found later in life. And I was like, what the hell is wrong with me for putting that out into the public space?
Well, it's really like today here, 20 years later, we're doing the same exact thing, except it's the podcast. Like I was listening to our episode from last week and you were talking about how it's very rare for you to be vulnerable. And then I was kind of like going like, but you can be vulnerable with me. And you were like, yeah, I trust you. And what I'm saying, I'm putting out into the world. Like that's very similar to the blogs we used to write on MySpace. And it makes me think from this convention we went to, they were saying on our website, we should have a blog section. All we need to do is repurpose our MySpace blogs.
Oh my God. If I can, I'm going to go look for this stuff.
Yeah.
And if I can find it, I will promise our listeners that with much pain, I will repost these posts and we can giggle at like the 25-year-old moose.
Yeah. We can giggle at what would that be? 27, 28-year-old cat. Like we can totally laugh about that. I wrote a blog about our skydiving adventure. I remember writing a blog about these giant figurines that my mom made for Christmas time of the wise men and like Jesus and Mary in the manger scene. Like she made these like homemade things. And one of the things that she made was a giant horse that like showed Jesus, with like, not Jesus, it showed Joseph with Mary like seated on the horse or whatever. And I remember that horse lived in our garage for years and it was like 3 times the size of a real horse. And I did a whole blog on it.
Wait a minute. Where did she find this horse and what compelled her to purchase it?
She built it. She didn't purchase it. She made it.
Lord.
And so basically, like, my mom and my aunt, they live in Alabama, and they live about 3 acres apart. I think on the last episode I said they lived an acre apart, but I think it's more like 3 acres apart. And they've got this quote unquote like path between the 2 houses called the walking path. And one year for Christmas, they decided we're going to basically like show the evolution of, Mary and Joseph, with Mary being pregnant with Jesus, kind of evolving through the whole Christmas story. And so they built these giant oversized figurines and they lit them out in the field. And it was absolutely stunning. It was amazing.
Have they repurposed them since then?
They've all kind of rotten since then.
There's got to be some symbolism there.
We've deconstructed the Christmas story just like we've deconstructed our faith. Thank you,
Exactly.
podcast.
I just pictured Mary pregnant on that donkey or horse or whatever it was. And I thought, well, that's one way to get the baby out. You know what I'm saying? Because like some like super pregnant women just like walk their neighborhood over and over. It's like, just ride a damn donkey around Jerusalem. That thing's going to slip right out.
Yeah. It's like I was in class the other night and one of our guest speaker was a doula, and I didn't really know what doulas were, but doulas are people who kind of act as an advocate between the patient and their caregivers. And also like in some ways like a therapist, a shrink, a friend, an advocate. It's like a really cool thing. And so I feel like really like all a doula would have to say these days is go, all you have to do is ride an ass, you'll have that baby.
Oh God, that's so good. All right. So speaking of deconstruction in our faith, there was this post this week that really was very cool. If you aren't following these folks, the name of the Instagram is Happy Whole Way. And it's Kara and Rachel, and they are spiritual coaches. Very cool. But this post just really stopped me in my tracks. And it says, what do I call prayer now? And should I still pray? And it says, creating new vocabulary and rituals for yourself post-religion. And I know this doesn't necessarily work for everyone, but I found this really interesting. And it says, it's very common when leaving your religion to struggle to find words and rituals that feel congruent to your new way of thinking. And it goes on to like share these eight slides. And like for new terms for prayer, I love this. Like they have a list of phrases like setting intentions, finding peace, contemplating, meditating, find space inside, go to your sacred space, journal about it. And it's so interesting because these are the kind of things you and I are always talking about is like, we have a square box that we think prayer fits in. And yet really, I think prayer is a way of saying, let me connect with something bigger than myself, but also with myself. Ideally, that thing is inside of me. And then they also talk about new ways to pray. And it's everything from lighting a candle, holding a picture of a loved one, which I love because, I have that little shrine in my house of my mom. Journaling, creating a way to talk to yourself in nature, hand over your heart and belly. These are all things that we love to do. Dance it out. That's a way of praying. Make pros and cons list, a bunch of different things. But I just really thought it was very fascinating to see people go like, hey, your language is going to have to change as you're kind of breaking down like what I believe and what I don't believe. It was kind of nice to see like a long list like that. So if you haven't followed them, check out Happy Whole Way on Instagram.
Is it HOLE?
WHOLE.
I meant that to be funny.
Oh my God. Happy Whole.
That's going to be the name of my new bodywork studio. Happy Whole.
Happy Whole is a great name. It's a great band name.
Yeah. Happy Whole. One of our dear friends and listeners, Maggie, was saying that she really appreciated our conversation about holding space for each other's versions of the divine last week. And she was really complimenting that, that's something that is really wise for us to do, and that she felt like we articulated really well. And one of the things that I've been thinking of is I've been trying to think, and I do this a lot, like I do this kind of devil's advocate thing where I think on behalf of the conservative Christians. Like I don't just try to think as like a person who's trying to be outside the box and, bigger picture thinker and all of that. It's like I think about people who all they know is thank you for telling me that struggle you're going through. I'm going to pray for you, and are they made uncomfortable by me saying I'm going to hold intentions for you? Like, does that feel like all of a sudden, like I've gone like woo woo when I'm trying to be sensitive to Christian believers? And so that's something that I've really been trying to kind of find a really beautiful middle ground when I talk to people in my life who I know that that's their language. I know that that's like their rather than language, that's their dialect. That's their dialect for their communication with the divine. And so what I've been trying to do is basically kind of doing that thing that we've taught our artists to do, know your audience. And if I'm talking to someone who is one of those people that posts memes about, that have scriptures, and it's like, hey, today is a new day, you're a new person. And it's got like, this little baby, like stretching and waking up in the morning. Like that's someone who I'm probably going to use the word prayer with.
Or you could use the button and do unfollow. Not because they're a conservative Christian, but just because that's a dumb meme. Find a better image than these damn babies waking up in the morning. My God.
Unfollow.
It's funny. Like, I actually don't have a problem with the word prayer. Like, to me, prayer is a very sacred thing to me.
Yeah.
I think the way I've thought about prayer has changed. So I hear what you're saying. Like, to me, I just like the, and you are more diplomatic than me. Always have been since day one. But I hear you. Like, I definitely changed my language in a lot of ways. When I'm speaking to someone in that world. But also I'm kind of getting tired of the non-congruency. I know that's probably not a word, but like I'm in a place where I'm like, I can't tell you, like I have had so many conversations recently where people have just challenged me. And these are people who are like new friends of mine, or even acquaintances that have been in my life, just kind of popped in and just find enough about me. And they're like, okay, I feel like you have a leg on both sides of the fence. And I'm like, yeah, and it's painful down there. You know what I mean?
It's hard to straddle the fence, man.
Oh my God. And let's be honest, like this week, a very good friend of ours, was diagnosed with cancer, and it has rocked me. Yeah. I mean, rocked me, because this person's in their mid 40s. And he's an exceptionally healthy person, and, is very close to both of us and Sarah as well. And I don't know what to do with that. Right. You know what I mean? Like, right. I'm at a place where I have felt all the feelings. I feel like I'm feeling their feelings and my feelings. And I do know how to show up in whatever way that they feel comfortable for me to be there. But that kind of stuff for me, like I actually wrote down, when I was kind of upset about some of this, I wrote down the phrase, tragedy simplifies things really quickly.
Man, gosh.
Because like,
yeah,
I don't know what it's like to be in their shoes, but like, the first thing I said, to his wife is she works with me. And the first thing I said to her is, please, like, all you have to think about is this person, your husband right now. That's all you have to think about.
Yeah.
And I know from sitting bedside of someone who has had a major medical situation, it's like you almost don't understand how the world keeps rolling.
Right.
It's just like the world stops for you, but everybody else is still talking about the Kardashians or COVID or the weather. And you're like, I don't even have any feelings about any of those things. So I got thinking about that. I was feeling. And it's just really interesting how that simplified my life very quickly. Like putting myself in in their shoes. I just thought the things that I am afraid of and care and supposedly care what other people think, it's starting to fall away for me, And it's moments like that where you feel very helpless because you don't know what to do except be supportive. That makes me just go like, why is it that I'm caring about all these other things?
Right.
Like it's really people and it's about ourselves and living our lives and trying to do our best, sort of being with each other along that path. So anyway, all that to say, like, I think I'm getting to a place where I just, if you can believe it, I care even less about being diplomatic.
Yeah. And I can totally appreciate that. I think that being diplomatic is something that I have honed over the years as a skill to use in business. And unfortunately, or sometimes fortunately, it bleeds over into my personal life and my relationships. And I remember one of my instructors telling me one time, I said, hey, this whole like active listening thing where I kind of mirror and I respond in ways that are empathetic and all of that. I said, sometimes the people closest to me really kind of balk against that. And he said, well, yeah, he goes, if you're sitting at dinner with like a significant other or a family member and you start to mirror them, like they're probably going to throw a fork at you and hope that it hits you in the eye because it's not what they're looking for from you. Like they're just looking for you to be present with them. They're looking for you to sit with them in their, whatever the emotion is, pain, joy, suffering, whatever it is. And so all of that to say is that, I think one thing that's really important for all of us to remember, is just that like your presence sometimes is all somebody needs.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Like I think back to those moments, and all of the different hospitals that I've been in with my family and other people as well, and it's like, sometimes people just need to feel they're not alone walking through something.
Right. Well, I remember a certain surgery that my mom had, and my sister and I both were in the hospital. I actually don't think it was a surgery. I think it was a health concern that ended up not requiring surgery. And my sister slept in the chair and I slept on the floor. And then halfway through the night, we like swapped out. And my mom was saying, it's ridiculous that you girls are here and you guys don't need to be suffering like this. You could sleep in the hotel room. And it's like, my sister and I were like, no, like we're compelled to just be with you. Like, even though she was in and out of sleep, in and out of consciousness, it's like, I know I'm not going to not be with you, Right. And sometimes that's what the person who is suffering needs. And sometimes it's what the person who is trying to come alongside the person suffering needs. And that's important too.
I totally agree. In the same vein, I have another woman whose name is Peaceful Barb, peaceful_Barb, but she has this Instagram called Peaceful Mind, Peaceful Life. And she talks, I have to read this to you, it's down the same vein. She said, my best friend Mary was a hospice volunteer. And during one of our daily talks, she said this to me, Barb, do you know what every single dying patient shares with me? I said, no, what, Mary? And she said, they tell me not to put off what I deeply desire to do in my life. Then they say, I wish I had done what I really dreamed of doing. Mary was my dearest friend in life. She lived in the San Francisco area. We spoke at least once a day. She died in 2013. When I visited her before she died, she said, Barb, please promise me you will get your book written. I published my book in 2014 and dedicated it to her. This pandemic has shown us life is fragile and tomorrow is not promised to any of us. So whatever you dream of doing, my loves, get a notebook, on the cover write, my life dreams, and begin writing down one baby step at a time that you can take now that will get you there. Your dreams matter. You owe this to yourself.
Man, that's beautiful.
I know. I feel like I go through these, everything feels very cyclical, but I go through these times where I'm just so taken by how little time we have, It's like in your 20s and 30s, well, I'll just speak for me. In my 20s and 30s, nothing felt impossible. And as you get older, you start making excuses or sometimes factual reasoning why something doesn't make sense. Whether that's a dream that you're chasing or simply a relationship that you're seeking, it could be anything. It's like, I think we think, well, tomorrow I'll get to that. And it's sort of like we talked about last episode, whether that's, us going to school and getting more training for things we want to do. I don't know why we have this misconception that we can only have one career and things can't change, I mean, you've been doing this for a couple years now. Well, I guess a year and a half chasing this other dream of yours. And I just think that's so cool. Like, I wanted to tell you that because I think it's easy to say one day I want to do this. And it's another thing to be like, I'm actually going to take the time and money, to explore this new thing that is sort of developing inside of me.
Well, thank you for saying that. And also too, like, one of the things that I've realized in the process is that all of this can coexist.
Yeah.
It's like we make it so black and white. It's like I've had several clients say to me like, oh, you're going to school for body work. So like, do I need to be looking for another manager? And I'm like, are you kidding me? No. Like, first of all, do you not think I would tell you if like, hey, that I'm looking at getting out of this part of the business? It's like I'm expanding something I'm passionate about, a hobby of mine. I'm expanding my knowledge in it. Like, really, the only thing that's going to do is benefit you.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean that
and I'm probably going to be a healthier person in the process.
Right, exactly, which would help you be healthy, and that would be amazing. I want to talk about speaking of dreams and stuff like that. When I was much younger, and I still do this now, I just don't do it with reckless abandon like I did when I was younger. But when I was in my late teens, I think it was late teens, early 20s, I had a dream of meeting the band Roxette, and I did it.
Okay, you have to tell the story. I don't think we've ever shared it on the podcast.
No, I don't think we've talked about it. So and to this day, I can hear a Roxette song and it like does something in my body that I can't fully explain. Like, I love their music so much. And Per Gessle is their primary songwriter. I think he's a great songwriter. I also think some of his lyrics are really questionable and not, and I don't mean questionable in like are they explicit or anything like that. It's like they're just, sometimes they're kind of simple. And so anyway, when I was younger, Roxette decided to do a world tour. It was around their Joyride record. Do you remember that record?
Oh yeah. What a great record.
Oh man, I love every song on that record. And so anyway, so Roxette was doing a world tour around their Joyride record, and they were playing at the Fox Theater in Atlanta. And I don't even remember where we were living at the time. I think we were living in Virginia, and or maybe it was Alabama at that point. Anyway, my mom was such a big believer in mine and my sister's dreams that she would take us to concerts everywhere. She would let us go sneak backstage and do whatever we wanted to do. And so for this particular concert, we drove to Atlanta. We met my cousin Linda, who is awesome, and her dad both listen to the podcast. So hi, Linda. Hi, Uncle Don. Anyway, we went to the Fox Theater, and I had my sister and I both dress in all black because that's what stagehands wear typically.
Oh,
and,
yes.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, we're going to wear all black so we won't be noticeable. I had studied, and I don't know how I studied this because we didn't have the internet back then, but somehow I knew what the backstage passes for this concert looked like. I don't know how I possibly knew that. Maybe I saw the tour.
I bet you saw it in like a Teen Bop or something.
Yes, like a Teen Bop. I bet it was, or 17 magazine or something like that. And so I hand designed backstage looking passes for me and my sister, and I had my mom drop us off where the bus was on the side of the theater, which now I've done so many events at the Fox Theater that I know that whole backstage area, you know. But back then I'd never been there before. And so my sister and I said, act like you know what you're doing and just don't have eye contact with anybody. And so we did. And we walked right in the backstage door. There was all the people, band dudes and gals and catering and all this kind of stuff. And we were just hanging out, looking around for like, where is Roxette? Because to us, Roxette was two people. It was Per Gessel and it was Marie Fredriksson. And the reason I thought to bring this up today is that the date that this particular episode of the podcast is airing is exactly 20 months. It's the 20-month anniversary of when Marie Fredriksson passed away.
Oh, wow.
The lead singer.
How did you know that? You just have it on your calendar?
I mean, let's not get super vulnerable here.
Okay. I am curious though. Like, you just said it'll be 20 months after her death, and I'm like, I've never counted 20 months after my mom's death. But okay, I'm just gonna go with this one.
Well, I've counted 1 year and 8 months after Marie Fredriksson's death is going to be August the 9th, which is when this episode airs. Anyway, so I just thought it would be honoring to her at her 20-month death anniversary to basically say, like, we snuck backstage. It was awesome. My sister and I found this stairwell where it had like arrows, like pointing, like, you know, dressing room. And so we were like, we have to find Roxette. Like, it's cool to hang out with like the crew and the band and all that, but we have to find like the Roxettes, like the dude and the chick. And so anyway, my sister and I climbed what felt like 50 flights of stairs, and we finally ended up in this dressing room. And I remember two things. I remember us walking into this dressing room, and there sat in his beautiful glory Per Gessel. He was sitting on a chair, and he was just sitting there, and guess what was beside him?
A doobie.
It was a veggie tray. So we walked in and we said, hey, we're really big Roxette fans, and we're not supposed to be back here, and we're probably going to get in trouble and get yanked out of here real quick. But we just wanted to say hi and meet you. And he was like, do you want some vegetables? Like, he offered us, like, and so we sat there and ate carrot sticks and celery sticks with Per Gessel. And my sister said, she goes, the thing I remember from that meeting more than anything was how incredibly soft his hands were. Because when we shook hands with him, his hands were just really beautifully soft. And for a guitar player, that's, you know, not totally exactly normal. So anyway, so we got his autograph. Like, it was way before, like, there were, like, you know, phones that could take pictures and stuff like that. And so we snuck backstage. We were dressed for success. This is for you, producer Sarah. We were dressed for success. We went backstage. We met Per Gessel. We saw Marie Fredriksson from a distance.
Okay, so the dude, you went into his dressing room? Because that in itself takes you from fan to stalker.
We barged into his dressing room. We didn't go into it. We were like, aha, here it is. And we just like helped ourselves. And thank God he wasn't sitting there buck naked. That would be a memory.
It would be a memory.
But he wasn't.
I think that's so freaking cool that you guys had the guts to do that and that your mom dropped you off.
Uh-huh. It was pretty awesome. And it was probably the joyride of that year of my life. If that doesn't give Sarah something to work with, I don't know what does.
I know, dude. It's so good. What is Joyride your favorite Roxette song?
Oh my gosh. I can't have a favorite. I just cannot have a favorite. I love them all.
Well, you have to. I have a gun to your head. What is your favorite?
Oh, man. Is it going to be a minute before you pull the trigger?
Oh, God. I'm not really going to pull the trigger. It was a metaphor.
Let me look up Let me look up Roxette. Because I love so many of their songs. I can't.
In the meantime, can I tell you about something?
Yes, please.
So you know how we used to do the irrational fear episodes where we would talk about things that were absolutely insane, but that we were afraid of?
Mm-hmm.
So my biggest one is an active shooter, as you know. And what about yesterday when we were at the podcast event and some Spotify or Stitcher, I think it was Stitcher, had like a booth there, and they had one of those old school, well, it wasn't old school, it was a new school version of it, but where you take the hammer and slam it down on that mallet thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing pops up and supposedly it's like the strongest man game or whatever. Well, they had that. And we were standing there, and the dude like 2 feet behind us takes that mallet hammer thing and slams it down. And I legitimately almost got to the ground.
Yeah.
And you went with me. And Sarah was looking at us like you were weird as crap. And I said, there's a shooter.
Mm-hmm.
That was so scary.
That was really scary. I think the thing that scared me more than the noise was your response to the noise. Because you grabbed my arm and basically body slammed me right in front of the Jack Daniels booth.
Well, there was a reason for that. Okay, so speaking of irrational fears and active shooters, it's scary that we live in a world we have to be afraid of that, but I legitimately am. I think the one that freaked me out the most was the guy in Colorado who came into the movie theater. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't really go to movie theaters without really being freaked out.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a legit one. I got to tell you, when we were on this road trip, I drove past a sign that became my new biggest fear.
Oh, no.
And
okay.
In Arizona, there is a sign that says meteor crater exit 4, or whatever it is.
Okay.
And I look over at Sarah and I said, what the hell is that? And she's like, oh, she was on tour for years. And so she's been through that. It's off I-40. And she's like, oh, that's the meteor crater. She's like, it's not that impressive. It's just like a big hole in the Arizona desert. And I went down, like, I just played this thing out. And I was like, so I didn't know, like, when it happened or any of that. And I was like, what? Obviously, this is before my lifetime because I've never heard of this. But when did this happen? And then immediately I'm like, how many villages were killed and all this? But did you even know that existed, that a meteor actually hit Arizona?
Yes, I did know that. I don't know any details about it. I did know that it was there. And it makes me just think, like, is that anywhere near Area 51 or is that in a different state? Is that in Nevada?
It's Nevada.
Nevada?
Yes.
No, Area 51, I think it's in Nevada.
Yes, Area 51 is in Nevada and is located roughly 83 miles northwest of Las Vegas. The meteor crater that Moose mentioned fell in Winslow, Arizona.
In theory, it's the same area. Mm-hmm. What is your thought?
My thought is that it's absolutely terrifying that something could unpredictably come from outer space and create such an indention in the earth that would be that big. Like, that's terrifying. And so I feel like if I wanted to really go into my highest levels of anxiety, I could get really scared about, like, at any moment a meteor is going to hit my house and I'm done. Like, I'm absolutely done.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah. That's terrifying.
I took such a freaking deep dive on this that I found out that I guess this is either luck or capitalism or something, but
luck or capitalism.
But this meteor crater is now obviously a tourist attraction. And I'm like, it was this family, it landed on their property and they bought, they owned it, or, well, I'm sure it was 50,000 years ago, by the way, that it actually hit. So I don't think that they owned it back then.
There weren't even humans back then. That's the
thing. It was a bunch of mammoths. The mammoths died. And I can't handle that. Right. And maybe the dinosaurs. I don't freaking know timelines. Mm-hmm. But they put an exhibit deal up there, and they've got a gift shop and whatever. So they just run this little situation of this big hole in the ground, and everybody lines up to see it.
Yeah, that to me sounds like somebody had a few construction vehicles and created a hole and called it to turn it into a monument. It's like, that's not real.
Let's be honest. All you have to do is create a wiki page.
Yeah.
And you're legit.
Yeah.
So anyway, maybe it's a business opportunity for us. We should look for some land. I'm thinking we need to go west.
Yeah.
It just feels
Dig a
more meteorite-like.
Yeah.
And maybe we could dig a hole, and even if it's a smaller hole, you know, and just be like, meteor, small one, but a meteor hit here. And we could just like sell little coin purses at the gift shop, and we could call it Happy Hole.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like that. There's something about that that's not terribly life-giving to me, and I feel like it could be a viable business.
You know me, I love to start a damn business.
I know it. And my favorite Roxette song is called Run to You.
Oh, maybe Sarah can give us a little something of that.
Yeah, I hope she does. It is literally like I can listen to it on repeat like 97 times, and I think it's like a 1-4-5 chord progression, so I can even play it on the guitar. Like, it's that simple, and I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite songs ever.
Gosh.
So something else that is simple that I hate, I love the song Run to You, okay? But something that's simple that I hate are tap backs. I hate tap backs.
Yeah, you're kind of angry about it this week.
I'm really angry about it this week. And it's like the fact that my phone like gives me a notification when somebody hearts something I say, like that feels like so passive. Oh,
it's not passive. It's a way to say I received your text message, but I don't need to put more words on this page. It's more of it's like a red receipt, which I will never do.
Me either.
Nope. Won't do it.
Not gonna do
Can
it.
I go back to the crater for a minute? I just remembered a part of it I want to share.
Of course.
So on August 8th, 1964, 2 commercial pilots in a Cessna 150 flew over the crater. After crossing the rim, they could not maintain level flight. The pilot attempted to circle in the crater to climb over the rim. I don't know what that means. I don't know how a plane climbs. Anyway, during the attempted climb out, the aircraft stalled, crashed, and caught fire. The plane is commonly reported to have run out of fuel, but this is incorrect. Both occupants were severely injured but survived their ordeal. A small portion of the wreckage not removed from the crash site remains visible. That seems like somebody shot them down.
What?
Probably the aliens.
No, here's the deal, is those dudes did not understand, like, how heat rises. Like, let's go Professor Cat for a second, okay? Like, first of all, we're in the desert. It's really cold at night. It's really warm in the morning. Who knows when these cats were out there flying around? Chances are there was a bit of a thermal or lack thereof that created kind of the antithesis of a vortex, or it actually created a vortex of air, and their plane was, I mean, a Cessna 150 is a little dippy little plane, you know? And so they got in basically the bowl of the crater, and they couldn't get out of it because of simple like airflow. And so they tried to fly out of it, and they ran out of damn gas. What a bunch of idiots.
I need to go deep and find an interview of them. I'm just impressed that you know all that. I'm sitting here like, are you reading something on this wiki page?
No, and everything I said could have been complete bullshit. It just makes sense to me.
Well, that's why people come to this podcast, is complete bullshit. So thank you for sharing our message further.
Which makes you want to quote, do you remember the name of the guy that we heard at the podcast interview this week? He was exercise.
Sean T.
Yeah, John T.
No, Sean T.
Sean T. SHAWN, capital T?
I think of you. Yeah, Sean T.
Sean T. Okay, I love this phrase that he said so much that I wrote it down. Perfection is temporary. Change is constant.
I thought that was so good too.
I clapped, and I was the only one in the room of like 200 people clapping. And I was like, I'm that person right now. Like, I'm the.
I know. I woohooed by myself too.
Yeah.
And we were the first table next to the stage. So it's like, hey, calm down, everyone. It's only 9 a.m. And we're just like, woo!
We're like, hey, Sean, your mom's here.
Okay, say it one more time. Mom's here.
Perfection is temporary. Change is constant.
Yeah. Can we talk about change? Do you like change?
I love and hate it, man.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Say more.
Well, I don't like things to stay the way they are. And so when there's an opportunity for change and it feels right, I like to take it. With that said, what I don't like is, and it's not that I don't like it, I'm just noticing that I'm having a hard time with it. I'm having a hard time exiting out of COVID space. Like I'm okay going to places, but the energy it takes to get ready to go somewhere and the psychological tricks my brain likes to flip through. Once I'm there, I'm good. And you and I even talked about this yesterday.
Yeah.
Once I'm there, I'm good. But like, I am having the hardest time wanting to, like, I can go camping, but I don't want to go sit with people and just shoot the shit.
Right. Same. I feel really similarly. And you and I both are very relational. And I feel the same way. And I love the people I work with. I love the people in my life, both personally and professionally. And I really, really enjoy spending time with them, especially you and producer Sarah. And like people like my sister and my mom and my friends. It's like, I love spending time with people, but just to go to that podcast convention, like I had to give myself the biggest ass pep talk just to like shower and get ready for that thing. And I'm like, why is that? It's not that hard, you know, but for some reason it's like, man, I really, really got used to being able to interact and relate in more of a enclosed environment for a year and a half.
I know. It's funny because I was just reading this news story talking about how Americans are willing to take pay cuts in order to never go to an office again. And it was in Business Week. And it just blew my mind because there's so many people going, oh, well, you're not going to let me work remotely. Then I'm not going to, I'm not going to stay here, even if it means that I take less money for my job. And I think a lot of people are feeling that way. And I think it's a good thing. Like, I really do. I think we've come to understand that we're able to do so many things from behind our computer screens wherever we want to go, and honestly, there's, I'm such a fan of the 4-day work week. I operate where I will only schedule meetings Monday through Thursday. And then Friday is my like creative catch up day. And I'll do some phone calls, but I won't do like full on meetings. And anyway, all that to say, I think there's going to be a change and evolution in the workplace where people are willing to go like, wow, we actually can be more productive with less time in the office. And we're noticing that there's more creative ideas coming out of that time.
Yep, I agree.
Because if people are rested, they're going to give more shits.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And I also like, I think it also makes the in-person relational time more potent.
Yeah.
Like it makes it like, okay, when we are in person, like it's really, really rich. It's not just kind of the day in, day out, like this is what we're used to, and I'm for that because I don't want to take for granted that like, hey, I spent 30 minutes getting ready and another 20 minutes driving to your office and an hour and a half in a meeting with you. And then 20 minutes drive home and then a 30-minute stop at the grocery store. Like that for a long time up until COVID was very normal.
Yeah.
And it's like, now it's like, I really want to cherish like, wow, if I'm going to make that kind of effort to be with you, like I really want it to count.
I totally agree. So if I'm running for office once a week, I have a meeting.
Oh man.
Sorry, maybe it's one day a week. I actually schedule my meetings. And then the other days I'm getting stuff done.
I love that.
I do too.
Absolutely love that.
Even if you're in meetings from like 10 to 4, back to back, it's like, okay, I can handle that because it's one day, but then I can expand my mind the other days to actually be strategic and creative.
Yeah. I absolutely love it. Let's do it. Let's do it. We can do it. We own our own companies. We can do this.
I totally agree. I know. It's just a matter of deciding that you're going to be strategic in scheduling that time.
Right. And I want to talk about something that I feel like was very unstrategic that you and I discovered yesterday.
Okay, tell me.
Okay, so this company, it really doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me, called Green Print.
Oh my gosh. Okay, here's what happened. We go to the podcast festival. We go and get lunch at a restaurant that's near your house that we all love.
Mm-hmm.
And we sit down and we're putting our napkins in our laps and getting our drinks and our silverware all figured out. And the lady comes, she's like, "Oh, would you like some straws?" And yes, I would, in fact.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to see it's not a paper straw, even though I understand that's good for the environment. I hate paper straws. And it says on the side of it, green white. What's it say?
It says Green Print.
Green Print.
Yeah.
And I open this thing and go to put it in my drink. And I was like, oh my God, Kat, look at all of the mold
Dirt.
all over.
Dirt. Yeah, you said mold and dirt.
It looked like it. Like it was the green part they got right.
It felt like it, like the straw, the texture of the straw felt like if you were to get some hay and chop it up into fine pieces and spit in it, you know, like the story in the Bible where like Jesus gets the dirt and like spits in it and makes mud. Like that's like what this straw felt like.
Yeah. It was kind of like somebody mowed their lawn and then went and picked up all of the, you know, pieces of grass and they put it in this giant cauldron and they said a bunch of, you know, witchy poo things like last week, you know, and they're stirring and stirring and stirring. And then they go, okay, now get the molds out. And then they pour it in and it makes a straw.
And you know what they did? You know how they made it, Moose. I know how they made it.
How?
They used our leftovers from the Yanni Steams.
Oh my God.
Would you like to use our recycled dirty straws from our Yanni Steams? Well, here you go.
Oh God. It's a residue straw. But anyway, all this to say, it's supposed to be super great for the environment. It was a plastic straw, I believe. It's what it felt like. But it literally looked like it was skimmed off the top of a pond.
It literally looked like it was lined with the Yanni Steams. That's so
all
gross.
the little like peppercorn seeds and just gross. It looks like someone poured out their green shake from the morning and then just put it into a mold. But it was the texture. If it just had that weird pattern, okay.
Yeah,
but it literally
texture.
In your mouth, it felt like you had dirt in your mouth.
Yes, it's like, you know how like if you make yourself a smoothie and you drink the smoothie and then you leave your cup in the car on like 110-degree day? Like that residue that's on the inside of the cup is what these straws felt like. It was really not appetizing to me.
No, so sorry, company, but you get a thumbs down for us. Good job on the eco stuff, though, man. You're winning in some areas.
Yeah, thanks, Green Print, for your efforts.
Okay, so in a very okay, you know what a eulogy is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I don't want to say like the gravestone because that's just kind of scary. But if you had one phrase that people said about you once you were gone, just a sentence, what is the first thing that comes to mind?
She loved me well.
Oh, that is so true.
I want it to be.
I like that your voice changed.
Oh, it just kind of made me like really somber.
No, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
She loved me well. That's very true. You do love well and hard.
Love hard, play hard, work hard, hurt hard, fall hard, get slammed on the ground hard.
I love you, damn it!
I love you so much. Die.
In a headlock hard. Yeah, that's how you love.
Yes, sumo wrestler hard. What would yours be?
Mine would say she was a good time.
I mean, that could go so many directions, which is exactly like you, Moose.
Exactly. You got to have something that has multiple meanings.
Yeah, so mine should not be she loved me well. It should be she loved me hard.
She loved me hard.
Special thanks to our producer, Sarah Reed.
To find out more, go to catandmoosepodcast.com. Cat and Moose is a BP production.